It just got very real as we have multiple new huge updates surrounding one particular player and the Toronto Maple Leafs. But not only have things gotten real, things have taken a very interesting turn that changes the outlook of the Toronto Maple Leafs offseason surrounding this one player. We're going to break down exactly who that is and discuss what this means going forward, as well as a few other Leafs updates, folks, as things are about to pick up very, very quickly. But before we can do it all, if you're part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, about 71% of you are watching right now aren't subscribed. You guys have been beasts, so make sure to hit that subscribe button. And things are really going to start to pick up as we all know. The Florida Panthers, unfortunately, won the Stanley Cup. It wasn't the Leafs, obviously, and it wasn't the Edmonton Oilers. It wasn't a Canadian team. But regardless of that, the player we're talking about today is on the Florida Panthers, and there's a few different things to go over. But we now have some big insight as into a lot of these free agents, what their asks are, and really things have gotten real not only for the Leafs and Brad Marchand, who we're going to be talking about in a minute, but just the free agent market in general. And folks, things are going to be picking up extremely, extremely fast. And let's start with this report here. We also have a couple as it pertains directly to the Leafs. Chris Johnson comes out and says the bidding for Brad Marchand could go north of $8 million over a 4-year deal. Now, we'll start with this. This is obviously not necessarily what you want to hear if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, but very expected. I mean, he had a playoff run for the ages. He said, you might even still be celebrating the Stanley Cup. There was a bunch of different things, to go over, but 8.5 or 8 million per. Now, this is from two different reporters, one from Chris Johnson, one from Darren Dreger. I mean, at this point, this seems to be the amount he's going to get. This impacts the Leafs' interest. However, over the past few days, the Leafs' interest has only gotten higher and higher as Pierre LeBrun came out most recently, but there's been multiple reports we've been covering on the channel, but a new report from Pierre LeBrun saying they are one of and expected to be one of the potential landing spots for Brad Marchand. Obviously, we know about how he mentioned the second round series about growing up a Leafs fan, all these different things. Brand new reports, you can name them from Chris Johnson, Darren Dreger, all these guys recently have linked the Leafs to Brad Marchand, $8.5 million a year. That's not that far off of Mitch Marner, but boy, oh boy, would he make a huge difference. And if you're going to overpay for one player, I don't know about 4 years, but this might be the guy to overpay for.
If you're going to overpay for anyone in this offseason, if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, it should be Brad Marchand. Now, I would be a little skeptical about this because, of course, we've talked about his age and everything like that. Obviously, he's looking for a 4-year contract that would take him into his 40s, which is something that you have to consider as well. There's other reports flying around that, Sam Bennett doesn't want to go to Toronto or really anywhere at this point. So if you're going to get anyone out of Florida at this point, which the Leafs love to do, dating back to last offseason, it's going to be Brad Marchand. Now, the other thing, and interesting other report that I saw, is that they are going to try and move some things around, the Florida Panthers, this is to try and retain him for maybe like $5 million, and he might be open to signing that. Nothing to do with the tax thing, of course. He wants to make $8 million or 8.5 in Toronto or another place, but will, happily stay in Florida for $5 million if they can afford it. And they might be losing some other pieces like Aaron Ekblad as well, which I think is pretty interesting. But I think the Leafs are going to try and get really creative this offseason. Maybe a move that we haven't really seen coming. I'm not saying that they're not going to go out and get Brad Marchand, but I feel like they're going to try and get really creative. But again, to get back to Brad Marchand, the specifics on that. If you are going to overpay for a player this offseason, make it Brad Marchand, I think, because he just brings so much to the lineup. You can't knock him off the puck. I don't care how he's not even that tall. He's not that big, right? We keep talking about bringing bigger players to the Toronto Maple Leafs organization, which I think they should continue to do, but obviously not to sacrifice skill or speed or anything like that. You want the whole package, of course. But Brad Marchand's a great player, and he brings that winning DNA. He is a winner, and what he did with the Florida Panthers was nothing short of incredible. Like, if Sam Bennett didn't score a record-breaking amount of goals this postseason, Brad Marchand would have won the Conn Smythe in a landslide. Like, he was clearly, I think, their best well-rounded player. Now, Sam Bennett, a lot of people would, argue that he was. Obviously, he was great and very physical. But Brad Marchand, Bobrovsky, yeah, he came third in Conn Smythe, but obviously, that's not going to happen. The Leafs have their goaltending, right? But Brad Marchand, again, I think that he was fantastic. He's not going to bring anything crazy to the lineup in the regular season, but he's a winner, and I feel like the Leafs need to spend some salary on guys who are going to come in, and Brad Treliving spoke about this, come in and change the mindset a little bit. And I think one thing that's, going to allow that to happen is Austin Matthews. A lot of people are dogging on him right now. And again, we'll get into specifics on Marchand in a second. Dogging on him right now because he doesn't seem like a leader, all of these things. Mitch Marner's out the door now. William Nylander's never really worn a letter. Now it's Austin Matthews' team. Let's see what he does with it. But if you add guys who've been there and done that, have won before around him, I feel like that would be a really, really good thing for the dynamic of the room moving forward. So if you're going to spend a lot of money on somebody this offseason, or overpay, I should say, because obviously they're going to make a couple moves. They have to fill in the offense a lot. make it Brad Marchand.
Yeah, and you look at these Scotia stat projections. They go on a tweet and they said it'd be very intrigued to see if a team actually matches the 8 million to be asking for. I don't think spending that money on Marchand over 3 to 4 years is good cap management. Their projected cap hit is 4.7, but again, that doesn't take into account being one of the best playoff performers in the
Right.
league. You could argue he's the best playoff performer in the league over the past, couple of years. He's just that good. Again, he would be the best playoff performer on the Leafs by a monumental amount. Now, let's speak realistically here. He is 37 years old, signing a 4-year deal at 8 million, where Mitch, like, that's Matthew Nye's money, kind of, which is
Right.
kind of crazy to think about. But at the same time, they're very involved. Nick Kypreos, of course, came out recently and said some things as well. The Maple Leafs need to sign Brad Marchand next season more than any other NHL team, and I would agree with that. I don't think Sam Bennett at this point is likely. All signs point to him. Andy Strickland actually tweeted out that the Leafs are, like you mentioned, a part of the, I guess, not a part of the list of Sam Bennett's teams if Florida fails to sign him back. So I think we can forget Sam Bennett for at least the meantime. I think it started to trend that way even over the past week or two. There's been no
Yep.
rumblings there. But Brad Marchand, on the other hand, there has been a lot of rumblings. Nick Kypreos, Chris Johnson, Darren Dreger, and even Chris Johnson again. At least they make sense on some level. Obviously, I mean that's kind of a stating the obvious there. But again, they're saying that they make sense, that he makes sense rather. And boy, oh boy, would it fix a lot of things. But the big worry here again is the 8 million. Assuming they let Mitch Marner walk, he's going to get 14 million by the Ducks or something. The Penguins, wherever he goes, Vegas, doesn't really matter. But that, let's say 14 million, that then gives you, I guess 6 million. So Brad Marchand at 8 million and then 6 million left. I'm just talking about strictly Mitch Marner's money here to go out
Yep.
and get another player. Still not bad, honestly, especially for what he's getting with the cap going up. But I don't know if Brad Treliving will pull the trigger on 8 million. If it's 6 to 7, I think they do it in a heartbeat. The 4 years, I'm not sure how much it actually matters to Brad Treliving because of the way that their timeline works. The reason I think this is most likely is because their timeline lines up in that 3 to 4 year mark. I don't think they care after that how bad their contract situation is looking because they need to win and they're hoping to win a cup in that window. You have Joseph Wallach up for that window. He's obviously younger. All the
Yep.
defensemen, a lot of the forwards as well that I'm sure they're going to be signing will be 1 to 2 year deals. I can't expect many huge deals. They're going for it now, and if that's the case, overpay for Brad Marchand.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a great point. Like it was a 4-year window. Obviously, we just went through a season. Now I think it's a 3-year window where they can absolutely win a Stanley Cup still if they make the right decisions. And I should clarify when I say overspend and overpay somebody or all of that, I mean, to a degree. So I
Relative,
don't
yeah.
think you should, yeah, I don't think you should spend $9 million on Brad Marchand. That's not what I'm saying. But to paint a picture, I'm saying that if he is worth 4 million, which again, you can't really account for in that chart, at least the Scotia stat projections, can't really account for the playoff run he just had, which was incredible. And of course, players get overpaid because of that all the time. We've seen it through history. But if you look at that, if he's worth like 4 million, then what if you're like, hey, 6.5, you can come play for the Toronto Maple Leafs. You'll get all these endorsement deals, which we know was reported that he wants included in the contract as well. He's looking for something like that. And on top of it, one thing that I think the Leafs can offer is playing under the bright lights. I think Brad Marchand loves the center of attention, first of all, and the challenge. He just strikes me as the type that loves a challenge like that. He wants to go and win, and he wants to see if he can do it in difficult spots. And obviously, Boston's not an easy place to play in. He played there for years, and obviously, Florida may be a little bit of an easier place to play in, but en route to win a Stanley Cup, right? And he showed up when it mattered the most. So he strikes me as the type that likes a challenge. So I could see him coming for that reason. Obviously, all the endorsement deals, stuff like that. And if he were to win a Stanley Cup as the Toronto Maple Leafs, obviously that would go down in history, right? That would be really cool, I think, for him to be able to say. But again, just strikes me as that type. But it's all relative, right? So I think that, they really have to consider that 8 million. I just don't know if that makes sense, but like realistically, he should be making like 4 or 4.5 or something like that. His age, his production, all of that stuff. But we know that's not going to happen. So if they can get him like 6.5, no brainer to me. Sign him, offer him all the endorsements that you can, and see where that goes from there.
Yeah. Also see how this affects John Tavares' contract. Obviously,
Of
similar
course.
ation, different playoff production, but even then, it's going to be interesting to see. Let me know down below what your thoughts are on all this. I mean, Brad Marchand, whether you like him or hate him, he's a fantastic hockey player, and the Leafs have a lot of work to do, and we're going to keep you up to date all the way through. So thank you guys for watching. Cheers.